Hello and welcome to episode 76 of the Good Guy podcast with me, Vittorio Angelone. Today is Sunday, the 15th of November. It's 25 to 8. It's a bit late today. Normally we record on the Thursday to release on the Monday. I say normally, we had just decided on that schedule this week. And as a lot of you will have noticed, our regular listeners, my unnamed female cancellation protector is not here, which is very, this is how this was supposed to be, there we go, which is very sad, but it's not, it's grand. We tried a couple of weeks of Izzy defending me from the cancellers. Let's just make sure I don't have to look at my own face. I'm trying a new camera here on my laptop, so I don't know if it'll work. If it doesn't work, that's good, because then you won't see me scratching my balls just then. But if it does work, hello on the YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. Takes 2 seconds. I know when I'm watching my favorite podcaster video content creators, I often just watch them go, don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. And I'm already subscribed, and like, that thumbs up takes no effort, just boom, thumbs up, and it would make me very happy if you click it right now. Make me happy. But there's a small chance this won't go out on YouTube because the new camera setup might be a little bit too much for my computer to deal with. It's currently sitting at around 22% CPU usage, which is high-ish. So it might start shitting itself and not working. My eyes itchy. Great podcasting. Izzy's not here. We're going to try again. I think I really freaked out when people got annoyed at me for saying something on the podcast. Whereas in reality, those people aren't people who listen to the podcast. They're not people who actually care about it. I just misguidedly put out a clip that was pretty controversial, and people got it out of context without knowing who the fuck I am and what I actually fucking believe in. So we're going at it again. We're trying just me, because I think I can do this. Basically, if you're just new, my girlfriend, the unnamed cancellation protector, was going to assist by asking me some questions, prompting me with some stuff, and making sure I don't say anything that gets me cancelled. If you're just listening, I'm drinking a beer. I'm sitting in my living room to give you a little sense of the place. I've also vaguely acoustically treated this room. I say acoustically treated. I put up 12 acoustic foam panels, and I'm hoping it makes that still zinging off all sorts of stuff. But I've put them up in the corners, in behind the TV. It should make a difference of some sort. I hope it sounds good in your ears. But if it doesn't, fuck you. So basically, this podcast has been a lot of things. It's been a strictly interview monthly podcast called the 42 podcast. And then it had which was great. And I still enjoy the interview stuff. And would like to get to do more. I don't really like doing Zoom interviews for the type of interviews I like to do. So that's maybe why I haven't done as many Zoom interviews since, or as many interviews over the lockdown. And I know people, and I like introducing people that I like to my small but dedicated fan base. So that's nice, but I like to do it properly. I like to be in the room with the person, looking them in the fucking eye. So I would like to get back to that when you're allowed to do that. But I think I just need to believe in myself more, have a lot more fun with the solo podcasts. And just kind of just fucking like crack on and just be me and say what I want to say and have just crack jokes and do what I want to do and don't fucking worry about anything else. If you get any feedback, listen to it, but don't fucking freak out about it. Just crack on, have a good time. I hope you enjoy it. I think that's when most people enjoy it, when I'm just honest, vulnerable at times, say what I think, even if it's wrong, even if it's embarrassing, all sorts of things. And that partly stemmed from listening to Bill Burr's Monday Morning podcast a bit this week, which is a very, very good podcast that I would recommend from Bill Burr, who at the minute is heading towards being my favourite comedian. I go through phases of enjoying comedians massively. I should do the fucking... I always forget to do the fucking spiel at the start because I don't really have intro music at the minute. I made another one and we tried it on another episode, but I kind of don't like it. I want to make it better. I want to get some musicians involved and make it cool. So... if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me at Vittorio Angelone, Vittorio Angel1. Get me on there. If you're new to the podcast on iTunes, hit subscribe. If you're old to the podcast and haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. And if you're old to the podcast or new to the podcast, then even if you've already given it 5 stars, hit the 5-star button on iTunes. It takes 2 seconds. You don't even have to leave a review. If you'd like to leave a review, that really helps people who are new to the podcast to see it and be like, oh, that sounds really fucking interesting. So leave something that sounds really, really cryptic and weird and be like, oh, listen to this podcast for the vaccine to COVID. Put something like that. That would be fucking cool. If you're on Spotify, subscribe, whatever the fuck you do there. Send it to someone. I have a very dedicated audience, but a very quiet audience. There's a couple of you. Shout out Naomi Mitchell. Shout out Violin Mick, who are very good. Shout out Connor Austin, who are very good at posting things on their stories about listening to the podcast. They're just very good at generally supporting the artists and content creators that they enjoy, and spreading the word. The rest of you fucks need to step your fucking game up. But I appreciate you listening. I would like you to just send it privately to someone and go, have you listened to this podcast? It's really fucking good. Because that's the only way we're going to spread it. Look, I'm not going to put it on a fucking billboard. I'm not going to get it produced by BBC Sounds, because imagine BBC Sounds ever put something like this together. There would be jingle music. They would be cutting it all together, taking clips out of context like I do to myself already. I don't need them to do that for me. Fucking BBC cowards. But if you do want me on any of your shows, just give me a shout, and lots of money. Always feel obliged to when you're drinking on a podcast so that everyone knows what's happening. So for the people that aren't watching the video, which might not even exist for this episode, the people that aren't watching the video know that you haven't disappeared or they haven't accidentally paused it in your pocket. But if you feel up to the lofty standards of Naomi Mitchell and Violin Mick and sometimes Connor Austin and some other people sometimes, of screenshotting, getting your phone out of your pocket if you're just listening, screenshotting it and posting it on your Instagram story or posting it on Twitter, tagging me, I'll reshare it and we can build the podcast together. Because I think realistically what happens is a lot of people like a lot of the stuff I put on Instagram, but it's just an extra little step for them to check out the podcasts because it's a different platform. So what we need is a lot of you sharing that you're listening to the podcast, and then I share it on my story. And then all those people go, oh, I do like him. I should really fucking check that stuff out. Do you know what I mean? I think we can do that together. I might burp. Don't cancel me for burping. Bill Burr's Monday Morning podcast is... Oh, yes. I go through phases of really, really liking comedians. I mean, I always like comedians, but I go through phases of being really into certain comedians. So for a while, I would watch pretty much nothing but Patrice O'Neill. Sometimes it's Dave Chappelle. All sorts of people. Kevin Bridges, James Acaster sometimes. But yeah, never women. But what's interesting is like top level, I don't like that many female comedians. I really like Michelle Wolf. But in and around my level on the actual club circuit, a lot of my favorite acts are women, which maybe shows that there's a glass ceiling that they're not elevating past. But then what the fuck do I know? I just like who I like. It's not my job to fucking, you know? So I can hear Izzy creeping about outside, like she's going to stick her head in and cancel me. Hopefully she doesn't. That'd be funny if she just switched roles. Instead of protecting me from cancellation, she cancelled me every episode. So Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, he kind of just rants, rambles, says what he's fucking thinking, gets worked up, does whatever, watches American football half the fucking time, and just like, it's very, and he'll say something about, like, I don't know, maybe I'm being a fucking whatever. He'll say stuff like that. And it all comes across as very lighthearted. And I think I do that. I think I come across as lighthearted and not serious most of the time. And I think most of you know that I'm not trying to fucking ruin anyone's fucking day or life or gender or race or sexual orientation or religion. You have to cover all the bases these days. You have to be like a sous chef at a pizza restaurant. You got to cover all the bases. Hello, Kobe. I'm very wound up today. Because today's Sunday. I'm doing the Sunday roast. It's the first Sunday roast back since basically what actually happened is I was doing this thing called the Sunday roast. If you haven't seen it, go on my Instagram. Where on Instagram I put up a post and a thing on my story saying, if you want me to roast you or roast one of your friends, tag your friends, make sure they like it so they consent to being roasted, and then make sure or if you want to tag yourself, just tag yourself or slide the little thing in my story. And I do roast jokes about people all of Sunday. And today it's 10 to 8 now. And it's taken up my whole fucking day. And they're still coming in. I've done like 55 of them. And it's not like I just rattle them off. Like, it takes maybe a minute or two to write the joke, and then sometimes I edit little photos together. I put a lot of effort into it, basically. And it pays. Like, a lot of people follow me off the back of it, and it's fucking great, and it's really good fun as well, and it keeps my joke writing brain ticking over. Sorry. But what's interesting is, like, Instagram and social media algorithms don't know that it's the Sunday roast. So they just see me writing all this stuff about people, and they keep like flagging it for hate speech. Which, I mean, it is, because it's roasts. I'm being mean to people. But obviously everyone's like consented to being roasted. So at one point they were like, we may delete your account if you continue this behavior, which is really fucking stressful. And I know Izzy would say that I shouldn't, it doesn't matter, like Instagram followers doesn't matter, but realistically that's my fucking job. That's the dream, to like build a following, build a community of people who will buy tickets and come see me live and facilitate. I get to tell jokes to them, and they get to support me in making this my fucking career and growing me as an artist. So it's a tough balance where you don't want to be one of those people that bases their whole self-esteem on social media, but also very useful platform to build my career. So I will Oh, I'd be so... If they deleted my Instagram and there was no way to get it back and I had to set up a new Instagram, I would be pretty fucking raging about that, I would say. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. I'd have to start again. And I don't think I have a big enough following to get it all back really quickly by people sharing it and stuff. Like even Mickey Bartlett, he was on 13,000 Instagram followers. He got his pulled down and he's still on like 4 or 5. And I'm only on like 2 or 3,000. So, and I worked very hard at making stuff for people and putting stuff out and making my Instagram a cool place to be for all of y'all, with all sorts of clips and sketches and podcast stuff and memes and tweets and things. So I don't know, given how famously quiet all of you bastards are, my dedicated but quiet audience, I feel like you're like the silent majority. That's what you fucking... I don't want to make that a fucking thing amongst people that like my stuff. I don't want you to be proud of the fact that you're the silent majority, because I'd really fucking rather if you were the very, very noisy majority. But the majority of people who listen to this podcast and follow me and stuff don't share dick all. So that might unknowingly be my brand. We're like Brexit voters. That's what we are. Welcome to the silent majority. Queuing on. See, I didn't do the and now I'm stressed that podcast listeners didn't know that I was sipping my beer. So that would be really fucking stressful if they did that. But I'm sure there's some kind of court that I could attend and say, look, I'm supposed to be being mean. That's the whole fucking thing. And it says, oh, we have these guidelines to make sure everyone treats Instagram in a respectful way. And I say a thing I've always had with people and the podcast and jokes in general is that there's a very interesting thing that happens with the Sunday roast, and I think I've spoken about it a little bit before, where people will often message me and go like, oh, I'm feeling really depressed or down, could you roast me? Or afterwards they'll be like, oh man, that's really fucking cheered me up. Which is an interesting thing, because I'm essentially being mean to them in a funny way. Like I'm being mean. I'm being nasty. That's the whole fucking point of a roast. But what I've always said is the most respectful thing you can do is make fun of someone, because that's how I connect with people. I think that's how most people connect with people, is by laughing and poking fun at each other. So to say that because someone is a marginalized person or part of a marginalized group, or because they've had some negative life experiences, that you're not allowed to make fun of them, is horrible to me, because then you're not you're precluding them from connecting with you and from you connecting with them, which I think is sad, basically. And there's a comedian called Don Rickles, if you haven't seen him. A good introduction would be just type into YouTube Don Rickles Reagan, like Ronald Reagan. I don't know how I'm supposed to say that in my accent. Ronald Reagan. I think it's not his inauguration, but just type in Don Rickles, DON, and then Rickles, RICKLES. Ronald Reagan. Don Rickles and Ronald Reagan. And it's just him shitting on the president and the Secretary of State and all these fucking huge influential people. It's like in front of them to a stadium full of people. It's amazing. And it's so fucking lightning quick, and he does all this mad stuff. And like, I think today a lot of it would be called like racist and wouldn't be allowed on TV and wouldn't be this and wouldn't be that. But it's like, I don't know. I just think there's something about someone making fun of you, if it's done well, that allows you to not take yourself so seriously, and therefore allows you to not be so stressed about whatever your responsibilities are or whatever your anxieties are at that given moment. Because I've often said that, who the fuck says that? Who the fuck says I've often said at 24 years old? What the I need a sip of beer to recover from saying that. I was in the middle of a serious point and I just fucked the whole thing up by saying I've often said. What sort of fucking cunt says I've often said at 24? I've often said nothing. There's nothing that I've often said. I haven't been here long enough to say something often. What a fucking stupid bastard. Oh, fuck my neck. Where was I? I've often said that anxiety is just arrogance in disguise. And I think one day when I'm a better comedian, I'll be able to turn that into a joke and like make it, just make it a joke basically. So anxiety is arrogance in disguise, because anxiety is like a stress about what other people think about you, what you've done wrong, how you've affected everyone else. But the crux of it is other people thinking about you, and a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. I've often said that cognitive behavioral therapy is my preferred method of therapy. And as I've often said, that it's really stressed me out. One of the acoustic foam panels is really slowly falling off the wall. So if there's a very, very slight, maybe 4% dip in sound quality, I'm overestimating that panel. If there's a 0.5% dip in sound quality in about 10 minutes when that falls, you'll know what it is. Jesus Christ. What other people think about you. That's what the anxiety thing is. And we'll talk a little bit more about anxiety in a minute. Well, I've got a little plan of what I wanted to talk about, but I don't want to do it in the wrong order. I think this order makes most sense. Can we all agree to zip back to about jokes being respectful? Is that okay? Can we all zip back to that? And there was a really interesting guy who follows me on Twitter called, should I say his name? Robert. I won't say his full name. Robert. I think he listens to the podcast, but I am not sure. And I did a little bit of a rant a while ago on the podcast about the concept of punching up and punching down, which a lot of the... Oh, shit. Okay, I need a cable tie for that. You don't need to know. You don't need to know what I'm talking about. I had done some really, really nice wire management. That is now... No, I think I can do it with tape. It'll be okay. It was genius. but now I need to fucking redo it. God, I can't. There's too much, because people have been enjoying the roast jokes today, and because they're so stressful, because a lot of them are like pretty risky. I'm really pumped up on dopamine right now, so I'm like, which is, I was gonna drink this, which is a caffeinated cola beverage with green coffee beans in it, but Izzy told me to not. She told me to have a beer instead, because I needed to settle down, and I think she's fucking right, as you will have realized from this podcast. And at the start of this podcast, I was supposed to say that I'm coming into the podcast with a renewed enthusiasm and treating this almost as like a relaunch of the solo podcast and believing in myself. And Izzy will join sometimes, but just me fucking taking ownership and having a good time with it and just making an entertaining and interesting podcast for you guys to listen to. But I've forgotten what I was going to say. I was doing this rant about punching up and punching down. This is so fucking scatty. If you can follow this, can you tell me what I'm talking about? Because I have no fucking clue. I was doing this rant about punching up and punching down, and how a lot of like woke comedians will say that you always have to punch up, and people always in the comedy world always talk about punching up, as in don't make fun of marginalized peoples and people who you have more perceived privilege. Don't make fun of people who have less perceived societal privilege than you, or societal power than you. And I say, fuck that, you stupid Edinburgh bastards. Punch everywhere, punch out. As long as you're not making fun of yourself, just punch out. But it's interesting because it's like, who makes the league table? Can I have a look at it? Where's the fantasy table for who's more oppressed and less oppressed than others? So I know who I'm allowed to make fun of. Because if you really do that, it's pretty much only white male Protestants that I'm allowed to make fun of. And maybe female English people that are white. But also, fucking hell, I want to connect with people, so I want to make fun of them. And there's a guy, Robert, who follows me on Twitter, who tweeted about it saying, thank you so much, or maybe did a review. Anyway, he got in touch in some manner, and he said, thank you so much for talking about that punching up nonsense. I'm paraphrasing and trying to remember from months ago. I'm gay, and I've got death threats for being gay before. So if you think any of your fucking jokes are going to make a fucking difference to me, then you're sadly mistaken. And this is the thing. People who've actually had hardship in their life or have fucking thick skins, and they really enjoy being taken the piss out of. And like a dark sense of humour. That's why the entirety of Northern Ireland has a horrifically dark sense of humour. Because as a society, it's fucked. So we all have to make the best of it by making the funny dark jokes about the bombs and stuff. Which should be the title of this podcast. The funny dark jokes about the bombs and stuff. Also, Robert, there's a mad moment, actually. I don't know if Robert listens to the podcast. I hope he does. Robert, if you're listening, I'm going to talk about you for a little while. And I am going to tell this story on another podcast that I'm appearing on as a guest. Have a Word podcast with Adam Rowe and Dan Nightingale. I'm really fucking excited about it. It's a really fucking good podcast. It's like, I am going to appear on one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to every week as a guest, which is fucking class. So I'm really fucking excited about that. And I'm aware that this will maybe be the episode that if people come from Have a Word to hear, This is the first episode that you've listened to of mine if you've come over in that direction. So hello, I'm sorry it's so fucking batshit non-directional. God, I forgot to do the Patreon plug at the start as well. Oh, what a fucking waste of space. Anyway, basically this guy Robert messaged me at one point when I was back in Belfast over the first lockdown, and he said something along the lines of, I'm going in for surgery. It doesn't look good, but I just wanted to say thank you for all the stuff you've been making that's kept my last few months positive and good and made my last few months enjoyable. And I don't give a fuck about the rest of you, because that's fucking... At that point I was like, listen, fuck everyone who doesn't post it on their Instagram story. Fuck everyone who doesn't do it. Leave a 5-star review. Robert's got you've all beat. Sorry Violin Mick. Sorry Naomi. Keep posting on your Instagram stories, but unless you're going in for fucking life-threatening surgery and you tell me that the last few months have been bearable because of me, you can fuck off. Like, there's levels, okay? And I kind of responded saying, hey man, that's a mad message to receive. And but thank you so much. That means a lot. I really hope the surgery goes well. What's it for? Like, what's the surgery? And Robert, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I don't think he will. Robert said, "Oh, it's for a mass on my brain. It's brain surgery." And then I was like, "Oh, that kind of taints the compliment of you telling me that my content's good." And I was really stressed. And he survived. And he tweeted me today, which is why it's in my head. I was really stressed after he said that the surgery was going to go really well. And he was going to come out and be like, "Hey man, you're not funny at all. I don't know why I said that. Obviously the brain tumor was fucking with me." That's what I thought was going to happen. Which I thought was... I think that's really funny. To have like the best compliment you've ever received potentially be tainted by a brain tumor. Like, you can't really... I guess you can, but like, I thought it'd be funny. I don't have to explain myself to you. You're not terminal. Back to anxiety and arrogance. So basically, like, a lot of people's anxiety centers around other people thinking about them and like the perception of the world to them. And the reason I think anxiety is arrogance in disguise is because who the fuck are you to think that anyone is thinking about you? You could walk down the street with no top on. You could walk down the street entirely naked. And sure, the people walking past would look at you for like a few seconds. But then they're just going to go back to their day and what they need to get from the shop. And what are they doing, a light wash or a dark wash later? And should they email Karen from work to tell her that she's been sexually harassing Jason? Like, no one gives a fuck about you. And I think that's why the roast jokes work and are positive. And that's why any jokes, insult jokes, roast jokes, those kinds of things, that's why all of those are brilliant. because it just forces you to see yourself from someone else's point of view and see your irrational attempts. I'm sorry. See your irrational attempts at mind reading for what they are, which is irrational attempts at mind reading. And I think the reason why I'm so excellent at talking about mental health, clearly, is because, speaking of mental health, if any of you are mental health people, I have realized in the past month or two since moving in with Izzy, she's noticed that I fidget. I knew that I fidgeted, but I didn't realize that it was bad. But essentially, I'm always moving. Like always. There's always something happening, whether it's my feet or anything. And then if we're sitting beside each other or we're in bed or we're having dinner or whatever, if I'm fidgeting, like just shaking my foot or whatever, Izzy will like ask me to stop. And then I will, but then all the skin on my body feels like it's fizzing. And I'll sometimes start to fidget with my eyes just so something is moving. And I've never been diagnosed. I don't think I've ever officially been diagnosed with anything to my face because I was a kid when it happened. But I was in fucking therapy from when I was 11, basically until now. For what I think is anxiety. But no one's ever told me to my face. I think because my mum didn't want me to like put a name on it or whatever. But I've been to every fucking therapy in the whole fucking world. Like, I've been to art therapy, where in one of the sessions they would just give you different materials, different forms for your art. So one week she'd just give me clay, and I made a basketball hoop and a guy dunking into it. And she was like, and what does that mean? And I was like, I just wanted to make a guy dunking in a basketball hoop. And another time I did, do you remember those Adidas Impossible is Nothing videos? If you haven't seen them, it's like David Beckham or Lionel Messi would, it's like a big like whiteboard, but that's see-through, so it's a nothing board. And they would write like their story of all the hardship that they had to go through when Leo Messi was very little and he had to have growth hormones and all that stuff, and their story, and then they say Adidas Impossible is Nothing. And I like those ads. So like I was a kid and she was like, oh, here's a pencil and paper, draw something. And I was like, cool. Drew my own Impossible is Nothing. And basically at that time, as like the weird fucking 11 year old that I was, I'd noticed that more often than not, when people aren't lit by podcast lights, although this one's probably doing it as well, generally they're lit from kind of one side. So like half of their face tends to be in shadow and half their face tends to be light. So on all the drawings of this Impossible is Nothing cartoon series that I made, I like would kind of like slightly shade half of my face in it. And I remember them being like, oh, like what does that, are you saying like you have like a dark side to you? And I was like, no, I just realized this thing. So I drew it because that's what people look like. And then another time she gave me markers, like big thick ones, and I was like, oh, sick. So I drew everyone in my class's name in bubble writing. And she was like, and what does this mean? And I was just at that age where you are really into bubble writing. And whoever's the best at bubble writing in the class is really cool. So like, I just wanted to practice. So I just wrote all the names of people in my class because those are just words with different letters that I could practice. which is fucking crazy. I remember, speaking of unconscious racism, there was a girl in my class called, I won't say her full name, her last name was Hussein, and she was like one of the only brown people in my whole primary school. And I was the second smallest in the class, and she was the smallest in the class because I used to be very small. And I remember when she arrived, I don't know how I fucking knew who this was. I was like 9. When she arrived at our school, she was like new in like year 4 or 5 or whatever. I saw that her last name was Hussein, and in my head, as an 8 or 9-year-old, or maybe probably 8-year-old, I was like, oh shit, what if Saddam Hussein is her dad? That's what I thought, even though she was Indian. I remember at one point in school, there was a teacher called, one of the PE teachers used to teach us RE, and he was a very funny man. He used to say things like, oh, if Jesus was alive today, he'd be playing midfield for Down. He was a big lad. You couldn't carry that cross by yourself. I was like, all right. Irrelevant to us learning about it, but he's a big lad. Good to know. And he, if you're listening and we're in my class, fucking, you know who I'm talking about. And I remember once he was talking about there's like a tsunami or some kind of natural disaster in India. And there was a girl, Sarah, in my class who was of like South Asian descent. I don't know which country her origins are from. But he said it and went, oh, you'd probably know about that, Sarah. And everyone like was dying. You know that like classroom dying laughing where everyone's just like silently. That's the best shit. That's like, if you could create a comedy show where people felt like they weren't allowed to laugh, that would be fucking sick. Because that always makes laughter better. If you feel like you're not supposed to be laughing at it, that's always, and that's probably why that fucking insult stuff and like the offensive jokes are fun because they kind of capture that, because the only way to make an audience feel like they're not supposed to laugh at something is to say something that you're not, a topic or about someone or a group of people or a thing that you're not supposed to laugh at, because it creates that same kind of tension. I'm a fucking genius. I never thought about that before, but that's fucking genius. I'm a fucking genius. I'm a genius, but I'm also lazy. So I think this podcast is only going to be like 45 minutes long. Shout out to all you motherfuckers out there. Up the fucking good guys. Thank you for listening to the Good Guy Podcast. Check me out on all the social medias. If you enjoy it, if you like what I do and would like to buy me a Freddo.
Are you hungry?
I am hungry.
I haven't put the pasta on yet.
You haven't?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've done 43 minutes.
That's one more than 42.
That is. So if you put on the pasta now,
Yeah.
then why are you so excited?
I'm just excited.
You're just excited? Would
Yeah.
you like to say anything into the microphone?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you, go on. Give us this. I'm wrapping up the podcast. I'm just doing social media plugs at the end.
Okay. The thing I have to say is Rabba dabba fish badega deggo. Should we sing a song? Sometimes my lips.
Wait, no, you have to do your version. I like the high.
Sometimes my lips.
No, higher.
Sometimes my lips.
Izzy. Sometimes my lips
Get stuck on my teeth. Teeth. You think it looks weird, but I can't help it. No, my lips just get stuck on my teeth. Deal with it.
Isabella Brownson, everybody, with Sometimes My Lips Get Stuck on My Teeth. That, I think that should be your role in the podcast, to just give, if you're in the house, you just come in at the end and say something and make something weird happen.
I planned on coming in earlier.
I don't know if anyone can hear you.
I planned on coming in earlier, but I got distracted.
By what?
Biscuits.
Sick. Okay. What kind of biscuits?
Milk chocolate digestives.
Class.
This is why I'm so high energy right now. I've eaten 6.
6 biscuits.
6 skits. Carry on.
If you enjoy the podcast, if you like the stuff that I do, subscribe to me on patreon.com/Vittorio Angelone. There's bonus podcast every week. There are bonus something every week is what I'm going to say. Or like an early release of a video, all sorts of fucking shit. Poetry, all that balls. I'll put some poetry. Should I put some poetry on there?
Yeah.
Also, that poetry thing you told me to submit to, I have to video myself saying a poem.
Yeah.
Which stresses the tits off me.
Well,
I'll do it.
Can do
I'll do it. I do want to see what it feels like to recite poetry in front of, like my poetry in front of a room full of people. So perform in a way that's not getting laughs.
Well, you did your final recital of the silent treatment.
The silent treatment, 4 minutes 33 seconds by John Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my final recital at one of the most respected music colleges in the world, I performed a piece that is 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence. Listen, I'm a bold artist who takes risks. I love people's reaction when I tell them that.
Yeah.
They always freak out. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah.
You sounded British when you said that.
Well, that's who I talk to. That's where I live.
Really?
And then I go, yeah. And they go, did they mark it? And I was like, yeah, they really enjoyed it. Because it was great. It was so tense. Because of the weight of the occasion of my final exam. Yeah. Like rounding off 4 years of study. Everyone, there was like 50 people there. And they were all shitting themselves for me. And I was just sat there on a chair looking at a music stand.
Were you counting it like?
No, Mark Rainbow, who's episode 1 of this podcast, was up at the back. He had a stopwatch, and the next piece started with the backing track before me, so he just hit play after 4 minutes 33.
That's bloody ideal, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I organised it to be that way because I'm very clever.
I'm gonna go put the pasta on.
Thank you. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. Okay. Patreon.com/Vittorio Angelone for all sorts of early release tickets when tickets exist again. What's wrong? You just trying to ruin the podcast. Don't trust women.
What?
Don't trust them. Never move in with them. Don't trust them. They're not to be trusted. They'll ruin your podcast.
I'm gonna cook pasta for 1.
Please cook pasta for 2. Izzy's acting like on the podcast like you cooked the entire dinner. When I did the lion's share.
I did the whole thing.
You're bullshitting. You're using my recipe for bolognese that I pretty much did everything for.
No, it's your granny's recipe and I did
It's not my granny's recipe. It's my mum's recipe.
Oh, sorry, little boy. I cooked the whole thing.
Fuck off.
Ah.
Don't cancel me for telling my girlfriend to fuck off. If you want more of that, whatever this podcast was, and more podcasts, if you want to hear the apology podcast every week, jump on patreon.com/Vittorio Angelone, where I apologize for whatever the fuck I've done wrong that week, because it's always fucking something. Instagram, share it with your friends. Now you've listened to a whole episode. If you're new, 5 stars, iTunes. If you don't want to give it 5 stars, please fuck off. Spotify, subscribe, keep involved. Thank you so much for listening. I really fucking appreciate it. We are building something. We've got a new enthusiasm. This podcast is going to be fucking massive. I believe in myself. I believe in you. You need to believe in me. We're all going to be great. Shubap shawadi wadi rabbity dingy dong. Up the fucking good, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope the video works for YouTube, but if it doesn't, then you're listening anyway, so it doesn't matter. I love you. And, well, if the video doesn't work, I'll just post it on YouTube with no video. Rather than it being jumpy video. I think that's better. I love you. Up the fucking good, guys. Look after yourself. And remember, you don't mean shit to anyone except maybe your mum. But I mean more to your mum than you mean to your mum. I'm fucking your mum. Up the fucking good, guys. Goodbye.